Hello everyone, welcome to a new video, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a certain Disventure Camp Season 1 character, Nick, and how to me, he was derailed and failed as a character in the reboots. Before we begin, though, I want to note a few things. This is not meant to be hate towards non-nation cartoons at all. This is just my personal insight and opinion on Nick's character, and if you don't agree with it, that's completely fine. We all have different opinions and insights. Non-nation cartoons has created an amazing series in Disventure Camp, and I cannot wait to see what they do next with it. As well, I'd like to quickly thank the channel Star Silvers, I think that's how you pronounce it, as the All Nick Scenes video saved me a ton of time. Without further delay, let us begin. Nick is a character created by All Nation Cartoons and can be viewed in two forms. Either in the BT non-canon Adventure Camp or in the canon Disventure Camp Season 1. We'll be looking at both forms today, but we're going to be starting with the beta so you can more so understand how I think he was derailed. In the BTA, there are two main gimmicks from Nick. You can either A, see him do the pay for everything gimmick where he basically pays for everything. This can also be seen in Disventure Camp Season 1. Or the other gimmick is him being ignored and doing absolutely nothing the entire season and making it to Final Four. They play it off as a joke, and then the only reason he gets eliminated in the Final Four is because Jake is slightly stupid. His personality is shown to be more kind and sympathetic. Yes, he still has that attitude, but he only uses when he gets very mad at someone. Otherwise, it's barely shown in the OG. And he's also shown to be very oblivious and innocent at times. And once he learned that Fiore is evil, he tried to do everything he could to get her to go in order to get revenge for Lil and everyone who got out, thanks to her, and was ultimately a very solid character. All that being said, I'll move on to Disventure Camp Season 1 Nick, who will have more focus than the beta did. There are a few major things I wanted to note here. First off is the fact that Nick's attitude is slightly increased in episode 1, not by much, but just a little, enough to be noticeable. And then in the next scene we get is Lil and Nick bonding. And then Nick gives us a sympathetic backstory. This makes me think we're meant to sympathize with the character. We're meant to like this character. We're not meant to hate this character. In episode 2, there's not really too much to Nick. He doesn't get much screen time. But one thing I did want to note is his attitude increases again. But not by much, just a little tad bit. Otherwise, nothing else of really importance related to Nick happens in episode 2, so we're just going to move on to episode 3. This episode is very important, mainly because this is where Nick feels like the most like his OG version. He's nice and he's helpful to the others, and he even had a confessional where he felt bad about Lil being slightly annoying.
Yesterday, before the elimination, the Alliance was talking and we couldn't come to a decision. For some bloody reason, Lil was defending Will, and Ashley preferred to throw her vote on Alec. I obviously went Will. As much as I hate to admit it, Lil was being a bit annoying.
Nick is literally sad to admit Lil was being annoying. He built a bond with her within a few episodes and days, and he doesn't like how it's breaking. Which is why it makes literally no sense in the next episode why he automatically believes the 6-year-old child if he's so hurt over Lil. We'll deep dive more into this later, but the main reason Nick doesn't work is because his episode 4 character isn't the character that we've grown to know in the past 3 episodes. Which I think is the perfect transition to segue into episode 4. Episode 4 is where this character really went downhill. It's because episode 4 isn't the character we've grown to know. Yes, Nick was oblivious, but he's not dumb. Yes, Nick has a slight attitude, but it isn't huge, and he does have sympathetic moments as proven in episode 1 and 3. If you want to feel any sympathy for this guy, they basically want you to throw it out of the window because he's turned into this jerk who they are now pushing for you to despise. Nick automatically believes the 6-year-old that Lil broke his things. Excuse me, what? As I said, Nick is oblivious, but he isn't dumb, and especially how hurt he was over Lil being annoying, why would he just believe the darn 6-year-old over his closest friend? Again, he was oblivious, but he wasn't a complete moron. He had doubts when he heard Lil did what she did in the end, and there was more evidence. The only evidence here is a 6-year-old's words. It still makes no sense. Why would he just believe her? Remember, Nick is not meant to be dumb. It felt like a nerve of intelligence. Kind of like Zoe and TDA. But not as bad. It also felt like they were doing this just to push the Nick boot forward. which I wouldn't care about if we weren't meant to sympathize. It felt to me like the first few episodes were pushing us to sympathize with this character. And then they just throw out of left field, you're supposed to hate the dude? I get it. After 2 heartbreaking eliminations, you don't want another one that's heartbreaking. But just completely derailing the character isn't the solution. I'm gonna bring Rhea into this argument because I feel like the direction they went with their character is similar to the direction they went with Nick, except Rhea's was better executed. First off, when they turned Rhea into a complete and utter jerk, they still gave you sympathetic moments. They wanted you to still feel sympathy for the girl. But here, they just completely turned him into a jerk. There's no more sympathetic moments. You're just meant to hate him, which completely destroys what the first 2 episodes of him were about. Before we do the conclusion and basically finally answer that question, yada yada, I'd like to say that Nick was probably always meant to be a pre-merge boot in all of this. I don't think he was ever meant to make the merge again, Final 4 especially, but that doesn't mean that you completely derail his character. And I also want to say adding features to a character isn't bad. Adding flaws to a character isn't bad when it can help the character, but in this case, it just ruined Nick for me. So this all comes back to the question, where and how did Nick fail as a character? It was the fact that they did a huge change in the character with 0 build-up or anything towards it. We never see the change. We were just supposed to think this was him the whole time. Going back to Rhea, because again, I feel like they're similar, Rhea had some build-up, and she was shown not always to be this way. That's why she worked better and why Nick ultimately failed to me. I'm supposed to celebrate an elimination of someone I was meant to sympathize with at the very beginning. If they made him unlikable from the start, it would have been fine, but it's the fact that we were meant to like this character and sympathize with him from the beginning that changes the entire story for me. But yeah, that's just my opinion on Nick as a character. There is a lot to him that we could have seen, and I think he's gonna have the biggest placement change from 3rd boot to 4th. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!